tonight's workshop is Mindfulness for Family Well-Being. And our presenter is Carrie Vieira. So let's get started. Thank you, Carrie, for being with us tonight.
Thank you all for being here as well, for joining me for this session on mindfulness for family well-being. So yes, I'm Carrie Vieira. I'm an instructional specialist here in Montgomery County Public Schools. I'm a specialist in restorative approaches. And mindfulness is one of our restorative approaches that helps us practice self-care so that we can co-create learning communities and our larger community, co-create communities that are peaceful and interconnected. And so we'll talk more about what that means momentarily. But to begin, it would be wonderful for everyone here to just say a little hello in the chat. If you have access to the chat, if you could share you can say hello and share one thing that you do for yourself to recharge, relax, or release stress. So one thing you do for yourself to recharge, relax, or release stress. I know for me, for example, some things I do are I like to take walks, especially out in nature. I like to exercise. I like to, as we'll practice today, practice mindfulness, meditate. And so, yes, I see folks chiming in the chat. Welcome to Juana, likes to read, meditating, reading a book, long walks in nature. Yep, swimming, spending time outside, all of those things. I love all of those things too. And so we all have different practices and different things we use. And it's really important that we have practices that we turn to nourish ourselves. Because especially, this is a session for families, which means I'm guessing most of us here are either a parent or a caregiver of a young person today. And so it is a lot. It's a lot in today's world to take care of our young people. And in order to be able to take proper care of our young people, we have to also be taking very good care of ourselves, because we cannot take care of our young people well if we are stressed, if we are frazzled, if we are overwhelmed, if we are tired and depleted of our energy. And so mindfulness is one of many different practices that can be very nourishing for our mind and our body. And so we're going to talk about what it means. But before we do, I like to give everyone an experience, a little taste of mindfulness practice. So right now, we're just going to practice for exactly 1 minute. I'm even going to set a timer, so you don't have to do any more than that right now. So we're just going to do 60 seconds of a focusing practice. And this is because in our day-to-day life, we have so many different things going on that our minds tend to scatter in a million directions. And so we might be sitting here, even right now, we might be sitting here on the Zoom, but we're also, responding to an email over here, trying to take care. We might be driving somewhere, we might be trying to do other things. And so our minds end up in a lot of different directions at the same time. And so mindfulness is about bringing all of that scattered energy to one point of focus. Yeah, I just know because I've been there too. And I'm just looking at the chat. How did you know? And yes, taking a bath is lovely. A facial, a massage, reading, just acknowledging all the other wonderful ways we take care of ourselves. So we are going to practice now for 1 minute. We're going to try to focus our mind on just one thing, and that's going to be on our breathing. You don't have to do anything special with your breathing. You're just going to be paying attention to what it's like to breathe. And so you're just going to have your attention on your breath, and you're going to just notice breathing in and breathing out. And then a thought might pop up and say, oh my gosh, did you remember to, do this, do that? And you're going to say, come back to the breath and just focus on the breath, breathing in and breathing out. And then the mind might pop up with another thought. Oh gosh, I got to pick up bananas on the way home, whatever it is. Breathing in breathing out. So for just 1 minute, you're going to keep practicing just focusing on your breath. Let's see how we do. So when you're ready, you're going to, if you are driving, keep your eyes open. But everybody else, if you're home, if you're seated, you can close the eyes or lower your eyes, bring your attention inward. Wherever you are, you're just going to notice what it's like to breathe. I'm starting the timer now. And for the next 60 seconds, I'll be quiet and we're just going to focus. What is it like to breathe? You may begin. Okay, you can relax your attention. That was 1 minute. If you want to drop a note in the chat, you're welcome to do so, or come off mute if you want to share what was it like to just try to focus on your breath for 1 minute of time. Was it quiet? Was it relaxing? Was it busy in the mind? Did the mind resist it? Did it feel long? So there are many different ways we practice mindfulness. This is just one example. And we're going to practice more examples before the end of our time together. But I like to give everyone just a little taste of it before we start talking about it. So let's talk about why we practice mindfulness, why this is even a thing. Why do we have a session on this? Why do we even talk about it? So in the chat right now, from your experiences and interactions with your own children and or other young folks today, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges or issues facing young people in today's world? So drop a note in the chat, or if it's easier for you to come off mute and share, you're welcome to do that. So again, you're sharing what you would say is one of the biggest challenges facing young people today from your experiences. All right, so I see not having time, no time. Yes, we are definitely in a world that we have a very busy schedules. I experience that too. By the way, I didn't say I work in MCPS, but I'm also a parent of 2 MCPS students. I'm a parent of a 9-year-old and an 11-year-old, and we have got something going every day, all the time. Let's see, what are some of the other challenges? Social media addiction. Yes, absolutely. Wanting what peers have. Absolutely. Electronics. Yeah, all of those things. And so thank you for that those sharings and peer pressure. Yeah, and some of these things are things that young people have been dealing with for a long time, like peer pressure in one way or another, or but we also have some new additional things like social media addiction that are not things that we really had to deal with when we were younger. Self-control when not with adults. Yeah, absolutely. Understanding our emotions. For young people, being able to understand their emotions and their needs and being able to regulate themselves is a big challenge. Big emotions that they do not know how to deal with. Yep. Behaviors. These are great answers. Trauma. Oh gosh, I know. And we're going to mention that as well. So mindfulness, why mindfulness? Well, here's just some statistics of things that are going around in our world right now. We know that anxiety and depression, but we're calling out anxiety specific, rates of anxiety have really elevated over the last few years. And we're now at a point where almost 1 in 3 adolescents meet the criteria for an anxiety order by the age of 18. So almost a third. That's a very high number. Someone mentioned trauma in the chat, and we are currently roughly at almost half of all children, 46% of children in the US have had at least one adverse childhood experience, or at least one experience in their childhood that left, a residue, an adverse childhood experience, another form of saying a traumatic experience that has a long-lasting impact. Distraction is another major concern today. On average, the average US teenager spends about 9 hours a day on digital entertainment. Several of you mentioned social media addiction, electronics, video game addiction in the chat here. And yeah, and we also talked about having no time, and yet their teenagers are finding time to spend many, many, many hours on digital entertainment. And those 9 hours a day, that's the average, doesn't include the time they're spending on it for schoolwork. I don't know when they're sleeping, if they're spending on average 9 hours a day on their devices. And then the other big issue we have going on today is isolation. And this is actually something that's even affecting adults, not just young people. And it could potentially be interconnected with the amount of time we spend on devices. But we're seeing a lot more reports of adolescents, teenagers reporting that they are feeling lonely, they are feeling left out, they are feeling isolated from their peers. We have almost 40% of high school seniors who are feeling that way. That's a large number of people who are young people who are feeling disconnected. And as I mentioned, it's an issue that's also been impacting adults, because our Surgeon General just last year or the year before declared loneliness a national epidemic. So what does all this have to do with mindfulness? Well, mindfulness, at this point, there have been thousands of studies that have been conducted, and they have shown that there are several key benefits to our various aspects of our health and well-being that can help mitigate the effects of some of those concerns we just talked about. And here is just a sampling of them. Like I said, there have been thousands of studies at this point, and there's lots of different benefits, but I'm just going to call out some of the few that I think speak most directly to young people's experiences today and how it can help them. So research has shown that mindfulness can help students and adults, for that matter. This is for all of us, for all ages. It can help us focus better. So in a world where we spend so much time on our devices, which scatter our attention, because we know, especially if you're on an app like Instagram or TikTok, or things where the content moves very fast. You have one thing that pops up, then the next thing pops up, then the next thing pops up. When it moves that fast, it scatters our attention. And so it makes it harder for us to be able to focus for a longer time on something like reading or sustained studying of a topic. And mindfulness is a way of training the mind to focus better. It helps reduce stress and anxiety. And that's because mindfulness, the practices, we're going to do more in just a moment, but there's different breathing practices you can do. There's different attention practices you can do that help activate the relaxation response in the body, which helps reduce stress, reduce anxiety. Studies have shown that mindfulness practice can help activate the prefrontal cortex. And I'm putting my hand on my forehead here because it's the front part of our brain that actually helps us think more clearly and make smarter choices. And gosh, do our young people today need that, especially because our brains, that part of our brain is not fully developed until the age of about 26 years old or so. And so, when you're young, you don't have a fully functioning prefrontal cortex that makes smart choices and clear decisions. But mindfulness can help stimulate that part of the brain, even when you're young. It can help us think more positive thoughts. And that's also important because that helps us to generally feel better, feel more hopeful, and give us more energy to meet challenges and move through our day. It helps us feel more peaceful. It helps us better understand and control emotions. And that was another thing that was called out in the chat earlier, being able to practice self-control, being able to regulate our emotions and our big feelings. It also helps us better understand others' emotions. So it actually develops compassion and empathy. And that's because when we become more aware of ourselves and we become more aware of our own emotions, then it actually makes us more skilled at being able to recognize when someone else has a particular emotion that they're experiencing and a need that they may have. And so at this point, we've had over 16,000 studies between 1966 and 2021. And there have been more since then, but that was just the latest number I pulled up. 16,000 studies that have been published that are pointing to all these benefits. So that's kind of the framing of why we even having this discussion and what its value is. So what is mindfulness itself? There are lots of different definitions out there and different ways of thinking about it, but this is how we think about it here in MCPS. We define mindfulness as a study of the self. Think of it as a course, but it's not a course, but think of it as a course where yourself is the textbook. So it's a study of the self that includes the development of self-awareness. So we become aware of who we are, helps us develop self-understanding so that we understand, what's going on in our experiences and what we need. And it helps us with self-regulation. And that's what helps us give ourselves what we need, right? If we need rest, we give ourselves that rest. So we don't, if we need to nourish ourselves with healthier foods, we'll do that. Whatever it might be, it helps us regulate ourselves. And the way we practice mindfulness is through research-backed practices that help align body, breath, and mind in the present moment. Again, that's research-backed practices that align three key things: body, breath, and mind, and bringing all of that here into the present moment. Mindfulness teaches us how to steady the mind and steady the emotions while awakening the intuitive and peaceful qualities of the heart. Steadying the mind and the emotions. So as we move through modern world, our modern society every day, it demands all of our energy, or a lot of our energy, to be sent outside of ourselves. Especially for us as parents and caregivers and adults in the world, we are balancing many responsibilities. We're balancing the responsibilities of work, the responsibilities of maintaining a household, the responsibilities of caring for our children, in some cases also caring for our parents or other family members, the responsibilities of being productive members of the society. And it leaves little time sometimes to think about the responsibility of caring for ourselves. And so mindfulness helps us draw all that energy that's currently being sent out to all these different directions, and it helps us call some of that energy back in so that we can nourish ourselves, connect to ourselves, and be more present in our body in this moment in time. Even right now, as we're having this conversation, we might be here in this same Zoom space, but our attention is thinking of other things. Here, there, everywhere. And so mindfulness is calling all of that back in, calling the energy, the mental energy back in, because the studies have shown we can't multitask. We might think we can, but the studies have shown that multitasking is not, it's not what we think it is. We're not good at it. It actually leads to more stress. It leads to more anxiety. It leads to all sorts of different concerns. It leads to us becoming more scattered, making mistakes. And so mindfulness is the flip of that. So how do we practice mindfulness? And again, this is just how we do it in MCPS, because we try to link everything to that research, to those studies. And so we practice in kind of three key areas. The first is we might practice with the body through mindful movement. And that means we might move the body in intentional ways that help us release tension, increase our energy, improve our flexibility, strengthen our core muscles, and also help us become more aware of our body so that we're paying more attention. so that, we notice like our posture, for example. And if we're constantly curving our spine and hunching our shoulders over, we start to lift up, right? Maybe relax the shoulders down, and that helps us increase our energy and our alertness. We also practice with the breath. The breath is a powerful tool for regulating our nervous system. So we'll do purposeful breathing techniques in mindfulness that can create specific effects, whether we want to calm the nervous system, increase our focus, or maybe raise our energy level. We can achieve different effects depending on how we breathe. So if we're feeling anxious or nervous about something or upset about something, we could practice mindful breathing to help calm ourselves down, and that's one way of breathing. But let's say we're feeling sleepy. If a child is, feeling a little sleepy in the afternoon and needs a little pick me up to focus in class, it would be a different type of breathing practice to help lift the energy and have a pick me up. So it depends what you need. And lastly, we practice with the mind, and that's through meditation or practices that help us focus the mind on one thing. It might be focusing on the breath like we did at the beginning. It might be focusing on the senses, the sounds of the moment. It might be focusing on the thoughts that are in the mind. And if we see that we have thoughts popping up that are stressing us out, we practice releasing those thoughts and cultivating positive thoughts. We might use affirmations, for example. So it's across these three areas, body, breath, and mind. We work on aligning all of those and bringing those all into the present moment so that we can improve focus, increase sense of peacefulness, and help us become better aware of ourselves. All right, so I'm going to pause there briefly because we're about to do a little practice with all three of these areas. We're going to do a little practice with the mindful movement, a little practice with mindful breathing, and a little practice with present moment meditation. So before we get into that practice, I want to pause in case anyone had any questions, anything they want to ask or share before we continue. And I'll give it about 30 seconds just in case anyone's typing a question in the chat. And if there's no questions, that's perfectly fine. We'll have more time for questions at the end. All right. So as I mentioned, we practice in three key areas, and I wanted to give everyone a little experience of practicing mindfulness in each of those areas. So we're about to do three different types of mindfulness practices. Yeah, and you'll see which ones you like, which ones work better for you. There's so many different types of practices, and so some work better for others, some work better than others for each person, because each of us have different needs. So this is just a sampling to see what works for you. How do these feel for you? So we're going to do first a movement practice with the spine. We're going to do some spinal stretches that help us increase flexibility, energize the body, and release stress. Then we're going to do a particular type of breathing called self-care breathing, where we inhale for 4 counts, hold the breath for 7 counts, and exhale for 8 counts. And then after that, we'll go into a little sensory imagery meditation where we bring our attention to all of the different sensory experiences of this moment. So you don't have to memorize any of that because you'll be guided, but that's just a little preview. And so to get into this practice, I'm going to invite everyone to find a nice, comfortable seat. I'm going to sit in a chair, but you can also do these practices seated on a floor. If you want to sit on some people like to sit like on a type of yoga mat or exercise mat or something like that. Or you can also do them standing up. It's totally up to you, but I'm going to model from a chair because I think for many of us, we're probably seated in a chair. And I'm going to stop the screen sharing for this portion because folks may want to just see the movements. Okay, so you can see I'm seated in a chair, and I'm in a chair that rolls, but I don't recommend that for these movements. Sit in a stable chair. I'm just here so that I can just kind of swivel around and show you how I'm seated here. I'm going to remove the blur from the background so you can see. I'm seated a little forward in my chair so that there's a space between my back and the back of the chair, and that'll help me with the movements that we're going to do. So we're going to do some movements with our spine, starting at the base of the spine and moving upward, so that we can explore the range of motion of our spine. You know, as you know, our nervous system is interconnected with all of the with the spine, the spinal cord. And so when we promote spinal health and mobility, and spinal strength, we also help impact our entire system because it's all interconnected. So sit comfortably in your chair. If you can plant your feet on the ground, if they reach, that will help with stability. Take a moment to feel your sit bones in the seat. Imagine for a moment that there's like a string coming up from the crown of your head as if it's pulling you up gently toward the ceiling, letting the crown of the head reach and lift a little bit higher toward the ceiling, and then relax your neck and shoulders so that you're finding a nice, long, tall spine. Not stiff, not forced, just relaxed but alert. Take a nice, big, long breath in and a slow breath out. Now, as we move into these movements, please note these movements are intended to be gentle. We flow with our breath, move at the pace that works for you. If you have an injury or anything going on in your body that makes one of the movements not feel good, not feel right, it shouldn't be painful. So if you have that experience, just back out of the movement, just don't do it, and just sit with your breathing and focus on your breath, okay? Otherwise, take your hands, let them rest on the tops of your thighs with the palms facing down. And we're going to start by drawing some circles with our torso around our hips. So our hips are going to stay stable in our seats, and our torso is just going to make circles around our hips in one direction. So our hands are just resting on the tops of our thighs, and we're drawing a circle with our torso. Our spine stays nice and long. It's almost like a mortar and pestle, and we're just swirling around in the bowl. Maybe we line up our movement with our breathing so that as you round forward, you inhale in, and as you round back, exhale out. And next time you come to center, pause and reverse directions. And then return your spine to a neutral, stable position. Close the eyes or lower your gaze downward. Take a big breath in through your nose. Hold it, and then sigh it out and release. Breathe naturally and just keep your eyes closed as you notice what sensations have started to wake up in the body from that first movement. Are there any shifts that you can notice? And if not, no problem. You're just seeing what's there. I'm going to move to the second movement. So that first movement was based in the base of our spine, our lumbar spine region. We're going to be coming up a little bit more now into the kind of mid-back, the thoracic spine region. Keep your hands as they were on the tops of your thighs with the palms face down. And now we're going to work on flexing and extending the spine. So that's kind of flexing the spine forward. The heart center kind of opens up. The shoulder blades draw back toward one another. The chin lifts a little bit. And then rounding the spine back, our chin comes toward our chest and we gaze at our navel. And we move with our breath. As we inhale, we draw the heart forward and we lift the gaze. And as we exhale, we round the spine back and chin draws to the chest, gaze at your navel. So move with your breath here. This is sometimes also called cat-cow, seated cat-cow. So you're moving with your breath. Move at the pace that feels natural for you. Take one more inhale in here and an exhale out. And then come back to that neutral spine. You'll close the eyes, take a big breath in through your nose, sigh it out. Relax here and notice how you're feeling after the second set of movements. Now we'll continue working in this thoracic spine region, the middle of the back. We're going to do a different type of spinal movement here, which is a spinal twist. Twisting can help stimulate digestion as it helps the intestines kind of move things along. So we're going to extend our arms out to our sides if you'd like, and you can bend your elbows and bring your hands to the tops of your shoulders, 4 fingers in the front, thumbs in the back. And you can see the upper arms are kind of parallel to the ground. And our head and neck is going to stay in line with our chest. And as we do, we're just going to gently twist from side to side, one way and the other. So the head and neck is in line with our chest, and we're twisting from the middle part of our back. And you can do this as slow or as fast as you'd like, just depending on what feels good for you right now. Maybe you find a way to line your breath up with this movement. Maybe you inhale one way, exhale the other, or some other rhythm of breathing that feels natural and easy. Take one more on each side and then come to center, relax your arms down, close those eyes, big breath in through your nose, and sigh it out. Relax here, take a moment to notice the sensations in your body. Now we're going to continue to work up the spine, and we're going to come now into the cervical spine, the upper part of our spine, which is the vertebra behind the neck, and so in the neck region. So we're going to start with the shoulders, and we're just going to do some simple tensing and releasing of the shoulders. So as we inhale in, we're going to draw the shoulders up toward the ears and give them a little squeeze, and as we exhale out, we're going to let it drop and let it relax. So inhale, squeeze the shoulders up to the ears, and exhale, we let it go. And again, you can do this slow or fast. It can be gentle or it could be a little more vigorous, depending on what feels right for you today. So moving at your pace, keep inhaling, squeezing the shoulders up, exhaling, letting it relax down. With every exhale, imagine the tension in your shoulders just rolling right off, like you're letting it all go. One more inhale in, let it out. Close the eyes and relax the breath. We're going to do one last little movement here. Staying up here in the cervical spine region, we're going to release tension from the neck with some gentle neck rolls. This one we always do slowly. And we honor our neck and just move in a way that feels right for us. So drop the chin down toward your chest. And then nice and slow, roll up to one side, letting one ear drop toward your shoulder. And then come back down through center and roll back up the other way. Now you can either continue like this, going down through center over to the other side, or if it feels right in your neck, you can also make a full slow rotation all the way around the back. You could also clasp your hands behind the back of your head, the base of your neck, and do the circle that way if you want to have a supported neck roll. So just explore to see what feels right for you. You might, if you're making a full neck rotation, you might hear a little kind of snap, crackle, pop, and that is just little oxygen bubbles at the base of the neck that get released with this exercise. The next time your chin comes through center, if you're making a full rotation, you're going to go the other way and take a few the other way as well. So those little cracklings that you might hear is kind of similar to cracking your knuckles. Next time your chin comes to the center, take an inhale in and return your head and neck to neutral. Exhale out. Keep the eyes closed. Relax your breath, relax your hands. We're going to move into a breath work practice here. So keeping the eyes closed and just staying with your awareness connected to your breath. We're going to practice inhaling for 4 counts and exhaling for 8 counts. Extending the exhale helps us activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is our body's relaxation response. We'll do a few together, and then you can count at your own pace after that. So breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Again, inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Breathe in, 3, 4. Breathe out, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Continue like this, counting at your own pace. And just do the best you can. Don't worry if you didn't get all the way out to 8 counts. You just try your best. Inhale for 4 counts, exhale for 8. In addition to slowing down our exhales and relaxing the nervous system, the counting helps the mind focus. If you notice the mind thinking about other things, that's perfectly natural. Just notice those other thoughts and then let them go. Bring your attention back to your breath. Keep counting in for 4 counts. Count yourself out for 8. You may notice the mind or the body getting antsy, getting restless. That's okay. Just stay focused on the breath. We are training in awareness and in focus. So continue breathing in for 4, breathing out for 8. Now we're going to continue this practice, but we're going to add one more piece to it, and that is breath retention, holding the breath in between the inhale and the exhale. By holding the breath between the inhale and exhale, we invite the moment of pause between action and reaction. That pause is a place of stillness and peace. So now we're going to inhale for 4 counts. We're going to hold it now for 7 counts, and then exhale it for 8 counts. And so you can, we'll do a few together, and then if you'd like, you can do a few more on your own. So breathing in, 2, 3, 4. This time hold it. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Release. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Continue on for a few more breaths. Take one more like this. At the end of your next exhale, let that practice go. Let your breath be natural once more. And we're just going to close out the practice here with a little bit of sensory awareness. Just taking a moment here to imagine as if you are a newly born baby in this moment and you have no words and no language. And just take a moment to discover your ears and what sounds they can hear around you. Just listen to the sounds. If there are words popping up in the mind, let the words go. Come back to listening to the sounds. Take a moment now to just notice how you're feeling from these practices, how anything may have shifted from the beginning of our time together to now. And then as you're ready, we'll take one cleansing breath to close our practice in through the nose, blowing it out through the mouth. We'll blink our eyes open and come back together. you want to share anything in the chat or come off mute in terms of your reflections on the practice, how they did or didn't work for you, effects or changes you noticed or didn't notice. Remember, for each one of us, it's a very unique experience. But this was a sampling, an experiential sampling of what mindfulness practices can look like. And so it's through our experiences that they have any real benefit, because we can talk about them, but unless we actually experience them ourselves, experience the shifts for ourselves, they don't really have any benefit just talking about them. So I see a couple of questions that have come in the chat. Should I do this stuff with kids? Absolutely. All of the practices everything we did are perfectly appropriate for children. They are practices that we use in schools with kids. And so you can use pieces of it in lots of different ways. But really also they're for us as adults, because when we talk about family well-being, we always start really, I think we sometimes jump as caregivers to caring for our children and caring for others. And sometimes we skip the level of self-nurture that we want to do in order to show up as our best, caregiving selves. And so there are practices for everybody in a family. This was a sampling, but we're going to leave you with more resources, with more kinds of practices, so that you can find ones that that work well for you. But the other key aspect of mindfulness practice that I wanted to briefly touch upon before we close are not just the practices themselves, but also the kind of attitudes of mindfulness practice that we often refer to, which is the work of Jon Kabat-Zinn. He coined the term mindfulness and did a lot of the earlier scientific research in the 70s around it to today. And he kind of talked about 9 key attitudes with which we cultivate mindfulness. And these are really the attitudes and spirit we want to bring into our families, and we can do that in lots of different ways. So the first is non-judging. And that is, we always practice everything with ourselves first. To what degree are we meeting ourselves with non-judgment? If we're being overly self-critical, for example, it's a form of stressing ourselves out. It's a form of harming ourselves. And then that usually spills out into how we interact with our families, how we interact with others. So we try in mindfulness practice, we try to bring a spirit of non-judgment. Just awareness without always the thoughts trying to explain the experience, analyze the experience, evaluate the experience. Is it good? Is it bad? Just have the experience. We try to bring the spirit of patience. And again, we practice with ourselves, be patient with ourselves as parents, as caregivers, so that we're on a journey and we're doing our best and we keep trying to show up and do our best. And as we practice that patience with ourselves, we can practice that patience with our children as they're on their journeys of learning and growth and development. We bring the spirit of a beginner's mind. There was a tiny little taste of that at the end of the practice we just did, where I said, imagine yourself a newly born baby and that you're just having this experience for the first time, and just notice the sounds around you. If we bring that beginner's mind as if we're just having this moment, this breath for the very first time, we can bring a spirit of curiosity and non-judgment in. We practice trust. We trust, cultivating our trust in ourselves, that we have inner wisdom, that we have an inner knowing. Sometimes we become overly consumed with trying to find the answers out there, reading this book, reading that book. I know I've done it. I still do it, trying to listen to this talk, this expert, read that book, and try to get all of our information from everyone else. But there's also a lot of knowledge and wealth and wisdom within each of us. And so cultivating that trust within ourselves, and then helping trust our children and their inner knowing, and helping them discover that for them. But again, the work always starts with ourselves before it jumps to the work with the kids. Non-striving. And this is doing the work for the work's sake, for the journey's sake, not trying to get to a destination. We're not trying to become some end goal in mind, but rather just always showing up in a way. We're just trying to show up as our best self in this very moment. That non-striving will help release a lot of stress. Inner acceptance of who we are in this moment. That doesn't mean we don't grow, but who we are right now, we have a loving acceptance for ourselves. When we do that, it naturally spills out into a loving acceptance of our families and others. Sometimes we're better at that with our children than with ourselves. So the work is internal. In mindfulness, when we talk about family well-being, we're talking about what are we as the adults in the space doing internally, and then it naturally spills out and transforms the relationships around us. Letting go, and that is sometimes having to let go of things that we're holding on to inside of ourselves that are causing harm. If we're holding on to some past hurts, past experiences, and it's something that is causing us stress in our current moments, and it's causing us harm or anxiety in our current moments, sometimes we have to see that and let it go. And then we practice gratitude. We practice cultivating appreciation, and that's something we can definitely do explicitly in our families, just taking moments for everyone to reflect on the things that they're appreciating right now, that they want to express gratitude right now. It's a common dinner practice for many families. It's an easy way to bring it in, or just driving in a car and taking a moment to share gratitudes from the day. And we also practice generosity, and that is with a spirit of care for others. We bring a generosity of spirit, looking for opportunities to connect with others. Remember, we're trying to transcend that isolation we talked about in the beginning that is, plaguing so many in our world today. So if you're interested in learning more about those attitudes, there's a video here, and I'm going to drop the slides to this presentation in the chat because it's got lots of links. So you can check that video out if you want to learn more. But that's just kind of in a nutshell what the key attitudes are. In terms of, I'm going to skip over that. Resources for you and your families. We have a MCPS Mindfulness website with more information. If you want to see examples of the kinds of things we're doing in our school system, ways we're practicing mindfulness and sharing it with students, with staff. And then for families in particular, we have a Mindful Moment video series. So this second link here, I just want to show it to you real quick, is a whole set of videos that you can use to practice from home, practice with your children. There's a Spanish language series that if you scroll here to the end, you see a whole set of practices that you can do in the Spanish language as well. So there are practices here if you want to continue to practice at home, along with, oops, I'm sorry, I scrolled too fast, along with some other resources and some science and research that you might find interesting.